Sandy here with you today. I'm going to be sharing, I guess, what will be my last process video for this month, working with the July limited edition kit, which features primarily papers from 49 in Markets, little celebrations, as well as one from One Perfect Day. But anyway, I decided to go ahead and use this small floral print as my background page. And this paper here was what I originally was thinking about using, but on the other side. But anyway, I like how this one is just a pale, solid, primarily solid here in the center where my photo will be. And then it's just got a little faint imprint of florals above and below. So I went ahead and tore the paper, and I've gone ahead and mounted it to the page, and that's going to be where I'm going to be placing my photo. Today I'm going to be scrapping a photo of a bride with, you know, a kind of fairyland type of ornament in her hair. I had also considered doing this photo, which would really match with the colors of the kit really well, but I like the sweet demure expression that she has on her face. And then also, if I was really doing myself some good, I would scrap this nice photo of my daughter and her husband at a formal event that they attended. And that may be what I ultimately, you know, layer on top of that. But sometimes, I don't know about you, I just like to scrapbook an image that I don't have any emotional tie to, other than that I like the photo. And then I don't think so much about that person and, you know, their personality and whatever doesn't kind of get mixed into the creative process. I just like to have an opportunity to play and design and, you know, work with pretty things. So it's almost as if the photo becomes an inspiration to me in a different sort of way. So anyway, that's why I'm doing that one. And I'm going to start by layering a couple of photos from the kit. We've got plenty of them in there to work with, but I'm going to use them just as a design element and not as photo frames, you know, although I could, you know, add these somehow to the photo if I wanted to. That would be really cute just to even do that and let some of the photos show around the edges. But I'm just going to use them as an element, so I'm going to place those down. And then I had not yet used this ticket, and so I want to slide that in here, and I may tear off some of the bottom. I don't know, I might just leave it as is. Let me see. If I was hurting for supplies, I would definitely tear that off, but there's plenty of embellishments in this kit, so there's no lack of things to design with. So I'm going to go ahead and go off of my voiceover. Well, this is live voice. I'm going to go ahead and stop the camera and just get started on working with my page. So sorry, I forgot to turn the camera back on. So let me stop here just a moment and tell you what I've done. I've layered the two frames right here, and I put the ticket in between the two frames. And then I've also used this gray index card and this longer strip of like newsprint that is in the kit. And so I went ahead and adhered my photo, and I'm letting it dry. I pulled in this laser cut floral piece right here, and I kind of plan to use it down here somewhere, but I really like the way it created a nice adornment to the frame. And anyway, I apologize that I didn't get all that on camera, but we'll go ahead and get back to creating now. All right, here you can see me gathering a few more elements that I'm going to put on the left side of my photo. I'm using some of the Prima flowers that are so beautiful. and I'm just, auditioning where I'm going to place them. I've already chosen some elements that are maybes, and they do end up being used. Aside from the florals, I'm using some pieces from the laser cuts, and then also a few bits from just the embellishment pack. And I do decide that for the little berries on the little floral that I need something underneath, like you see me tuck in right there, that kind of doily piece. I wanted to be able to separate the berries away from the pattern paper, and so that you could see them a little bit better. And so that's why I make that change. And that little doily piece is also from the embellishment pack. I'm inking there and distressing it with a little bit of vintage photo ink. And then today it looks like I'm using my Barely glue, which is very similar to art glitter glue. And there I'm just going to tuck this flower, under the photo. My photo's elevated on a couple of pieces of corrugated cardboard so that I could do some tucking. And then I do want to use that embroidery floss that's part of the kit. And so I just kind of bunched it up like you would a piece of thread, and thought I would see how that would look. And so that's what I ultimately do. Just kind of looped it around, and then it moved kind of as I was working with it. But I wanted it just to have kind of a similar look to what's in the bride's headpiece, which is, just kind of looks like wildflowers and stems and that kind of thing. So I'm just putting it there and letting it dangle out to the side there. And then I adhere one of the leaves so those berries won't move around, because I have them positioned where I want them to be. And then I'm going to take the smaller flower, and I'm ultimately going to kind of mount it on top of the other two. This is more of a piece that you would use in a shadow box, or a 12 by 12 frame, because it is multi-dimensional. But I'm all about texture and dimension, so I really like that. And I use 3 ring binders for my work, and when they're too large, I'll use the decorative frames. There I'm using a couple of tags that are also from the embellishment pack, and I've been wanting to use them. They're really cute, and there's several of them in the package. So I had originally thought about tying them together with some of that embroidery floss, but since I've already tucked some in and there's plenty of color there, I decided not to. And there you can see I've chosen another laser cut piece that's a little bit larger than the one that's in the upper left-hand corner on the frame. And so I think I'm down to my last one of these. I may have one more, but I'm not sure. So anyway, I went ahead and used my foam squares to elevate it. I really probably should have used some, tape rather than the squares, but the squares were handy, so that's what I used. So I'm going to remove the covers, and then I'm going to tuck it in underneath that little corner there. And because the florals are more of a solid, they do stand out away from the pattern paper, and also because they're up on the foam squares, it makes them dimensional, and in real life you can see them pretty easily. Normally I would also probably ink around my paper there, or around the photo. I do something for the focal area, like maybe even use some gesso to whiten and fade out the pattern. But I've just not really been using too much mixed media the last couple of months, other than splattering, and I hope to get back into that next month. There I have some more little floral blossoms that were from the laser cuts, and there were some that I had left, and I'm going to place those around. But first it looks like I'm playing with my title, which says perfect picture, picture perfect is what it says. And I want to align it underneath the photo, giving it a little bit of white space, and then letting it dangle off the right hand edge just a little bit. And before I commence using the flowers, I'm playing with a butterfly that's from the laser pack. And so I auditioned it in several different pieces, and then I think I've lost it, but I didn't really. It just slid over to the right-hand side. And so I play around with where it's going to go, and that's ultimately where it decides to land. I like it there. It kind of frames the photo and looks kind of cute right there. And because it's up, you know, away from the pattern paper, I think you can see it easier. Later I come back with another butterfly and use it as well. But there you can see I'm tucking in some florals just to kind of build up a cluster right there and to soften those edges that were created by the layers that are back behind the photo. And then I just play around with where that next one's going to go, and I think I end up putting it kind of midway there on that right hand side to fill in where there's kind of a little blank area. I do come back later and add some more floss, and so that's one thing I do. Additionally, I use another one of those flowers down below. There you can see me bending it just a little bit to give it some addition, you know, some dimension. And those I decide to distress with some of my vintage photo, so they'll pop a little better. I do like using tiny little flowers, whether they're three-dimensional or they're just, you know, embellishments like this, to kind of soften edges and just to be a little something to fill in. I call them fillers. But they're really pretty, they're very feminine, and they kind of heighten the femininity of the page. And there that piece was moving around on me a little bit, and the stem was, you know, really delicate because these lasers are cut so thin, and I wanted to make sure that it didn't break off, so I went ahead and adhered a stem so it wouldn't have any play in it. And there I'm going to bring in another flower, and I tuck it in behind that gray file card just to kind of soften that area a little bit. I love that we had so much to embellish with in the kit this month. We usually do, but this laser pack from 49 Market was really big and chunky. And here you can see me bringing in my laser cuts, and I pull out that second butterfly, and I'm auditioning whether to put him higher, lower. I thought a butterfly on top of the florals would be cute, but I do just use him to kind of fill in that space right there, and I go back and forth between the larger one and the smaller one. I think in the end I go with the smaller one. So I'm just going to pop it up on a foam square and bend the wings up a little bit and leave it like that. And I think that butterfly moved on me a little bit, so I'm repositioning it. And then here's where I come back with that last flower, and I tuck it in at the bottom. It just kind of builds up the cluster and makes it look finished. And I think in my mind, I had 3 flowers, and then the flower and the butterfly just kind of, you know, keep that odd number that I like to have. And then I had the bow that I took from the laser cuts, and I ended up placing it where I didn't really plan to. I planned to go right there where it is right there. But then I put some glue on and I adhere it to the photo up higher, and then I remember, but I've already gotten glue on the photo, so I have to go back to the spot where I placed it. But it looks great there. It just kind of finishes things off, and it would have even been cute over there by the title. And now I think I'm looking for more embellishments. Yes, I had those little banner pieces that were possible, and I kind of wish I'd put them right there. under the photo. I think at least using 3 of the banners would have been real cute, but I was worried that there was too much there, and so I decided to not use them. I had also used the banners on another layout and had put them at the top, so I didn't want to replicate that. And then the little bird comes from the laser cuts, and I wanted to put him on here. He's a cute little fellow, cute little fat guy, and I thought he would be perfect for going right there up above the photo and on that layered strip of newsprint. And then I'm just showing you my block. If you watched my previous video, you know I was looking for my little square block earlier when I was stamping. And then I'm just showing you there that I'm getting ready to spray. And then I decided to wait, and we had the fuchsia spray in the kit, and I never really found a place to use it. So I decided that I would go ahead and splatter with it on here. It seemed like, to me, I wish it was a little bit different color or something, but I thought, you know, with splatters, it really wouldn't matter too much. It'd be a little bit like using black or something. So I did that, and then off camera, I come back with some white acrylic paint, and I dab my flowers. I also add some pearls. Details are down below on how to order a kit. I do thank you for coming by. If you'll like and subscribe, then you'll see more of my content in your feed. And I hope that you're able to grab a kit before they're all sold out. See you next time. Bye-bye.